You know I do, Ryan, but... Ryan smiled and forced Jonathan backward, watching as his knees caught the edge of the mattress and he fell onto the bed. Ryan kneeled down, straddling Jonathan's waist. Ryan reached up and started unbuttoning Jonathan's pinstripe Oxford, sliding his hands inside to tweak one of his nipples. Jonathan moaned as his nipples hardened and leaned forward to taste Ryan's lips against his own. "I've wanted this since the first time I laid eyes on you," Ryan whispered against his lips. Jonathan playfully nibbled at his lower lip, sighing in pleasure as Ryan's hand reached down to unbuckle his belt. The sound of the zipper rasped through the room and Jonathan gasped as Ryan's hand brushed against his hardened cock. "It's time to take these off," Ryan said as he tugged on Jonathan's slacks. Ryan stepped off the bed, hooked his thumbs in Jonathan's waistband, and tugged them down past his hips. He leaned forward, sliding his right leg between Jonathan's legs, and lowered himself to capture Jonathan's lips. Ryan trailed kisses down the left side of Jonathan's neck and slowed as he reached the nipple. He circled the nipple with his tongue, feeling it harden against his lips. Moving further down, he continued to trail kisses while he pulled at the loosened knot of the white cotton towel around his own waist. "Ryan, we should really talk first," Jonathan started, as he watched Ryan move further down his body. Ryan smiled up at Jonathan as he tugged at the knot and slowly pulled it apart. "I prefer to talk with my lips." Jonathan groaned as Ryan slowly stroked the shaft of Jonathan's penis with his tongue. Jonathan closed his eyes and ran his fingers through Ryan's hair as Ryan circled the tip of his penis with his tongue. He moaned as moist heat enveloped the head. "Oh, please don't stop." Ryan sucked harder as he gently pulled the cock further into his mouth. His head bobbed slowly up and down as he slid the silky rod of steel along his tongue. Jonathan threw his head back as he allowed his hips to rhythmically rock up and down, pumping faster and faster. Ryan stroked Jonathan's thighs while feeling the smooth, hot shaft slide deeper into his throat. Their pace grew frenzied as Jonathan's excitement and pleasure increased and his moans grew louder. Ryan slid his hands up to cup Jonathan's tightening scrotum while increasing the pressure on his tongue against his shaft. Jonathan clutched Ryan's hair tightly as he gasped, "Oh, God, I'm gonna, no, please don't stop. Oh, yes." Jets of overheated fluid filled Ryan's mouth as Jonathan groaned and Ryan gulped eagerly. Ryan continued to slide Jonathan in and out before he licked the tip and slowly slid his hand down. Jonathan gasped as Ryan stroked the sensitive rim gently while reaching for the white tube of lubrication on the bedside table. Ryan nudged Jonathan's thighs apart and reached down to coat the dusky-colored tip with the cool gel. Jonathan bit his lower lip as he felt Ryan's hardness probe him. "Jonathan, tell me if you want me to stop." Ryan looked down intently as he slowly pressed inward. Jonathan gasped as Ryan's manhood breached the opening. Ryan paused, waiting for Jonathan's muscles to accept the hot, hard flesh. Ryan leaned down to capture Jonathan's lips with his own as his flesh pressed forward another inch. Jonathan arched his back instinctively as Ryan thrust forward suddenly, burying himself to the hilt. "Oh, God, Jonathan, you feel so good surrounding me," he groaned. Ryan slid slowly out before thrusting in hard and deep. Jonathan clutched at Ryan's back as Ryan's hand slid down to cup Jonathan's ass cheeks tightly to him. He pulled Jonathan tightly to him as he began to rhythmically thrust in and out. Jonathan threw his head back against the pillow as Ryan gripped Jonathan's hips roughly. "Harder, Ryan," Jonathan demanded. "I've never felt like this before. It's so different than I could have imagined." Ryan pounded into Jonathan, relentlessly driving into him over and over as the phone rang shrilly. "God, Ryan, you feel so good inside me." Ryan ignored the rings echoing through the room as his breath became uneven and labored. Ryan thrust one final time before pulses of semen filled Jonathan. Ryan collapsed onto the bed beside Jonathan, staring up at the ceiling, and his breathing slowed. Jonathan laid back on the bed, trying to catch his breath before sliding off the bed to grab the phone out of his pants pocket. "Who was that on the phone?" Ryan asked as Jonathan toyed with the phone. "Was it an emergency with someone from your church?" Jonathan shook his head slowly. "It was just my wife. She probably wanted to see what I've been doing today." Ryan was silent for a moment before he asked, "You're married?"